Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is July 23, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Also, a special thanks to John Tobacco, who introduced me to today's guest, Hans Annellsson. Hans, where in the heck you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Sweden, Europe, in a town south of Sweden called Malmö, which is really close to Denmark, close to Copenhagen. There's a bridge between Copenhagen and Malmö. So I'm in the south part of Sweden.
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Well, I think apart from food and water and shelter and those main things that we need, the best thing for a human, for at least for me, is music.
Yeah.
And the thing, I mean, for me, it is if you're in a bad mood or you're feeling low down or whatever, for whatever reason, you can listen to music and it will lift you up. That's the way it works for me. I assume it could work the same if you read a book, see a movie, or any other art thing, and whatever it is, as long as it's the same thing, But for me, it's music,
Yeah.
and that has been working really well. If I listen to something I like, then I will get in a good mood.
Yeah, Hans, that was great. And I agree with you because Walter Pater said all art aspires to the condition of music, because the ones you brought up, like painting, literature, poetry, architecture, whatever, they all wish they could be as cool as music. Because music, and it really is a magical healing force. And
Yeah.
we'll get into music, but a few of these background questions first.
Yeah.
What's your favorite form of information? How
Yeah.
it comes into you?
Yeah, it depends. Internet, when it comes to fastness, if you want something really fast, but maybe not accurate. If you want something that is more accurate, I use public service television. I read the local paper or the national paper.
Yeah.
But public service is probably the most correct information that I'll get. We have a public service company here in
Yeah.
Sweden. Yeah. And they are the most correct, So it depends on what you're looking for. I check the internet as everybody else every day, but you never know whether it's accurate or not,
Yeah. Well, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, I think they do that in order to get on with their lives, and also you must have some kind of information about what is happening in order to be able to live your life. I mean, if you don't know what's happening and if you don't have any information about things, then you can be fooled.
Yeah.
That's the
Indeed.
thing. People can easily fool you or
Yeah.
trick you into things if you don't know what you're talking about or what you're doing. It's very hard to know everything, of course, but the main thing is that if you don't have information or knowledge about things, someone can easily trick you into doing something stupid or whatever.
That's create the disease and offer the cure. It's really amazing what you just said. And is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
I think it's innate because I think animals also collect information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, everything living, basically, maybe even grass or whatever, but at least animals or humans, we need that. We need to be able to collect information. I mean, it's easily to see if you see a cat or a dog or whatever, they need to, they have their own way of getting information, mainly through the smell. And so animals are doing it. And that's why I think it's built into everything that's living.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes. I think thoughts can create emotions.
Yeah.
There are other things that can create emotions as well, but thoughts can create emotion. I don't have a good example of that, but I think I think it's that way. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get it deeper into it as we go along.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank, Hans. I don't know what I think until I.
Well, until I wake up.
Oh,
And
nice. Wake up.
yeah, I mean, of course, everybody has dreams, but I don't know whether that dream is real until I wake up.
Yeah. That's McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. And Joan Didion says, I
Yeah.
don't know what I think until that. I don't get that answer. And that's brilliant. Can humans think without language?
Yeah, I think so, because babies can think.
Yeah.
And they don't have a language. They have the baby talk and things like that. But if you don't need a fully language in order to think, and
Yeah.
and I even think that the animals can think.
Yeah. Well, Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a
Yeah,
whole history that creates what a community is.
yeah.
What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
I probably use body language, if or make myself yeah, if we're talking about a language that, yeah, or use music as a language. Yeah,
Yes.
I
That's
have,
good.
when I have it, when I'm teaching, I have a sort of, I call it music, the subject music. I call it, this is um, uh, language of music, I call it. And and then yeah, exactly. So music can function as some kind of communication.
Yes. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Well, I would like to say thinking, but I think we are more feeling based, actually.
Yeah.
But I wish we were thinking based.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's just my guess.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what I'm after. Guess, hunch, impulse. That's all fine. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. These are two questions from Alan Turing in 1950s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
Well, you're touching on AI there. No, I would say no. Machines can't think at the moment, but maybe in the future.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Happiness.
Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Creating, I think.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I think that is individual, but I would go for speed of thought if it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Hans, there's no right or wrong answers to any of
No,
these,
I understand.
but that one you got right. No, most people say speed of light, and I think it's speed of thought, but you know,
Yeah.
there's no right. But anyways, this poet Audre Lorde said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer said, no, you can if you expose the tools. What
Mhm.
new tool do you suggest?
For dismantling the master's house.
Yeah, and just to put it into context, Hans, I open some of these questions with cute quotes. It doesn't mean you have to apply it and you have to apply the wording I use. It's basically asking what tool do you gravitate towards, and it doesn't necessarily have to be new, but you
No.
can apply it if you want. And then what does dismantling the master's house mean? It could mean various things. So she's a poet, but you can imagine sort of what I'm after there. And again, you put it into the context you want, however you want to answer it.
Yeah. I use the guitar.
Yeah. What
That's
a
my question. No, that's my answer. Sorry. I
I
go for
love
the I go for the
that's
guitar.
that's I don't like the wording so much, but I think it's Woody Guthrie put on his guitar. This is a
This machine kills.
yeah, it
Yeah.
kills fascism or
Yeah,
fights
or
fascism. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
What new toy do you suggest?
Um, I suggest probably something related to music, and whether it's a toy or not, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Some kind of musical program, and yeah, I mean, you could maybe say that YouTube or Spotify is a toy.
YouTube is an amazing toy. Spotify, same. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I don't worry about anything actually when I go to bed. I sleep. I don't have a hard time getting to sleep, though. My problem is that I wake up too early, and usually I need to go to the toilet. That's why I wake up, at 5:30 or something like that, And then we have a cat who also wakes up around that time, and usually we take him out. I take the morning shift and my wife takes the evening shift, so
Yeah.
our cat is scratching our door or my door here, and my bedroom, and I have to get up around 6
Yeah.
30 sometimes. It depends. It's a little bit different each morning. So that is why most of my worries, I would love to be able to sleep to 9
Yeah.
uninterrupted, but that is not possible.
Got it. I'm similar. What's your cat's name?
Sige.
Siga. All right.
Sigge.
How cool. And so McLuhan learned from Pound the poet that artists are the antenna of the race, like musicians, painters,
Yeah.
everything. And they're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions.
Mhm.
So, Hans, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, I would say that, there are so many things that could come between humans and people in general and what the artist says. And I go for things like commercialization, money wise. There are people who don't want you to behave or see things, or even understand things. They the people who are in charge, they want obedient persons, that don't ask questions and just generally accept uh, how things are.
Yeah,
And when artists sort of pinpoint things that goes against their vision or their idea of how things are, they give us even more what do you say, entertainment and things like that, to put us to make us think about, to don't make us think about the really important things, or more important things. If we're just obedient and do what everybody else does, then these guys are happy. and
yeah,
and that
that's the word entertainment. You put
Okay,
in the middle of it. It's like Dumb All Over, the Zappa song.
exactly.
But do you think artists have moral obligation?
uh that's a hard one. um they can have that if they want, but I mean, I also think that you have to separate the artist and the person. I mean,
Yeah,
uh, there are, if you talk about, yeah, whoever, people, artists who have been Nazis and
yeah,
all that. I think you have to separate, if you can separate the person and the artist, and you can appreciate things even if it's hard.
yeah,
um, I as an artist, I go for that, that as an artist, of course, you can tell yourself that you have a moral obligation, or you have a moral, you do you don't do everything, but as a listener, um, or yeah, whatever, I think that I try at least to
yeah.
separate that.
No,
But
it's a high aspiration. I do it the same. Try to separate the art from the artist. I
yeah,
think it's good aspiration. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
well, um, I think that question reminds me of John Cage, that when he says that he's not afraid of new, he's afraid of the old. That the old, well, I I'm not afraid of new ideas. So
Yeah,
if I had to choose, then I'm more afraid of the old ideas sticking around, when we don't need these things anymore. But people are so. Um, I can give you an example when in Sweden we have a royalty. We have a king and a queen, and all that thing. And I'm not a royalist in any way, but that this idea of having like a court and giving money to it and having a king and queen. I think that's a really an old idea, and we should get rid of it. I tell people we are in the 21st century now. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean, how can we still talk about courts, kings, and queens? That belongs to way, centuries ago. It's the 21st century. We should get rid of these. It's an anachronism which is gigantic, but so I'm more afraid of the old ideas than the new ones.
Yeah, you nailed the root. That Cage quote is the root of that question. So
Yeah.
thanks for being so observant. And can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yes. One of my, I go for music here again, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah. I remember that my grandmother had a piano, and we were going there usually at Christmas or in the summer. And the thing was, they at this time, which was in the 60s, they didn't have a television at that time. They had a radio, but I hated going there because I couldn't watch television, you know. But they had a piano,
Yeah.
so I started, playing at the piano. I couldn't play anything. I wasn't, playing melodies. I just sat there and picked the song, or picked the different keys, and just made noise. So that's one of my earliest memories from musical memories. And I also remember when I was 5, I went to some kind of kindergarten, and at the Christmas celebration there, I did a duet. I sang a song together with a girl, and we performed that and sang that. And I really remember it because my my mom was there and my little sister. And my little sister was so afraid of the Santa when he came, and she started screaming, shouting, and I was so embarrassed, because this was my little sister, and she was afraid of Santa. And how uncool was that, because everybody knew that Santa wasn't real, it was some. I knew that, and all of the other kids, in the kindergarten knew that. But my sister, which is 3 years younger, she was totally terrified, and I was really ashamed. But that's one of the memories I have out of that.
Yeah,
So, and then, yeah,
I welcome these anecdotes or stories. Really good, Hans. I really felt I could experience that moment. But
yeah.
is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
I don't think it's a curse. It's more of a blessing.
Yeah.
It's especially when you get older,
Yeah, oh yeah. Tell
because
me
then you have some memories, and
hello, yeah.
you tend to think about them more when you get older, and when you get, in my case, I have a grandson now, and I'm actually thinking of doing a little thing for him, that when my musical life or something like that,
Yeah,
starting with early memories and things like that. But yeah, so I think it's a blessing.
that's good. And tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
Well, in my family, um, I can't really tell. Maybe my grandmother on my dad's side, she meant a lot to me, and she seemed to favor me, um, uh, and I have a couple of cousins, but they are all female, so I was the only male child there, and she sort of favored me, and that was sort of important for me. Uh, Otherwise, outside of my family, okay, there are lots of people. Frank is one, John Cage is another, Marcel Duchamp is another. That people that I have influenced me, but also people. I've had, yeah, even the opportunity to work with someone like Mats and Morgan and some other really spectacular people, that I've had the fortune to meet, and hang around with. But
Yeah.
also, I also had a guitar teacher fairly early on. Because I've been playing guitar from almost from the first class when I was 7, and I started on mandolin and then went on to guitar, and I played little drums as well. But all through my school years, I always had some instruments that I was taking lessons on, and one of those guitar teachers was meant a lot to me.
That was really well done, and I'm so in agreement. Zappa, Cage, Duchamp, Matson, Morgan. That's
Yeah,
a high five that I relate to immensely. So
yeah.
did your parents raise you a particular religion?
No,
And do you pray?
nope.
And if God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a religious bone in my body, so I don't know what he would say. I there are two things that is sort of sometimes death gets a undeserved bad reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are two things that are sort of when it comes to death, that is sort of that you can think about. The first one, it's democratic. I like that about death. It's
Yeah.
democratic. And the other thing is, it's something that you've never done before.
Never done it. That's amazing. Can you forget to die?
I no, no. That's not possible, because it's you don't decide whether you're gonna die. And usually, of course, you can commit suicide or things like. But when you get ill, which is probably the way you get sick,
Yeah.
get a disease, that is something that you can't forget. You can't. That when I assume if I get really sick, I can't forget that. It will be very obvious to me that I am sick. But well, I don't know. I'm thinking a lot about death and how it affects us. But
It's funny, we're making a movie on that very subject, and that's pretty heavy, those 2 points you brought up. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
well, I think that you're not born evil. I don't think you are
Yeah.
evil when you're born. So that is something that evil uses. If you there is always, depending on how you, and so much is dependent on the way you brought up and what you experience as a child. If you have a happy childhood and are taken care of and have a good life as a child, then there's no reason why you should become evil, in the sense of that you do really really evil things to other people and things. I think very much is dependent on your childhood, and unfortunately there are people or children who grow up in environments that is not healthy for them, and they can become evil.
Yep. And it's the hidden question, really, Hans, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob in The Samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy. But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Maybe that's true. Yeah. If you know, enemies, to tell you the truth, Jerry, I don't feel that I have any enemies.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I can't think of an enemy. You know, if that word, who should I think about? Who is my enemy and why? You know, and I can't. You know, maybe I'm a naive or romantic, but you know, I can't really see anybody at the moment, I mean, like there was someone that I would say is my enemy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's a good attitude. You find humanity in every, like the answer I get the most that I love is everybody's capable of being evil and you know, doing harm, but it's you, like you said, you trace it to how they were raised or some trauma. But Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Then my friend said, well, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And Gregory Bateson says, well, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, wow, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, whoa, I did something morally or socially wrong? So it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
No. No, I don't think punishment, I mean, within reason, of course. One other thing I really oppose, which I think is almost as stupid as organized religion, is the death penalty.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, since there is no legal system anywhere in the world that it's 100% accurate, we shouldn't send people to death, because there will be mistakes. If we can figure out a way of saying to someone, okay, you can come back, we made a mistake, we have killed you once, but we were wrong, you know, you can come back to life. If we ever figure that out, then I would say that death penalty is okay. But since we don't do that, you know, and I don't, I think it's so that kind of punishment, the ultimate punishment, doesn't work. And I mean, it's a big question, you know, because if you have been subject of a crime and you have been, whatever happened to you, someone hit you or someone, whatever, of course you feel that person or persons should get some kind of punishment for the act that what they did. And and I would probably feel the same if someone did something to me or to my family or to my cat. You know, I would, someone that I love or whatever, I would feel that person would get some kind of punishment. But I don't think the punishment actually works as such, as just like a standalone punishment. There have to be other things, you know. And the ultimate punishment, the death penalty, doesn't work.
I agree with you. It's stupid. It's like your kid. Yeah, it's just so. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said, "Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism." Hans, why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I've been thinking about that when I go to an art gallery,
Yeah,
and you see some kind of installation,
yeah,
which is basically, could be anything, a bike, or any ordinary thing, But the thing is, I think that when you go to an art gallery, for example, or a movie, and you experience something like that, when you see it outside of the art gallery, or
yeah,
outside of the movie, and you recognize that, and that has happened to me a couple of times, when I've seen something, and the specific thing was I saw a bike, that had been in water for maybe a couple of years, and someone had cleaned, the canal, and they put the bike up, and the bike up, and the bike looked like a flower power bike, because it had all those tiny things that live in the water. It looked
yeah,
like made up, and I thought, wow, this bike could be in an art gallery.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you recognize something, if you've seen something in a gallery, and you recognize that thing outside of the gallery, and you get some kind of, okay, yeah, that looks great, like a
yeah.
positive and I assume that could work with movies and, yeah, whatever, and as well. That's one answer for why we should, what could be good about these things.
Yeah, Hans, it's a perfect, evoking of, Duchamp. One of
Yeah,
my favorite lines by Duchamp is, "The artists of the future will only have to point."
yeah,
So, it's
exactly.
like
Conceptual
art and
continuity. Yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah,
he he, wa- he,
conceptual,
wa- he,
that's
he
my art.
yeah,
Duct tape and a banana, that's my art, and it's like,
yeah,
"Okay." And it
exactly.
pisses people off. That's what I love about art is when it pisses you off. It's like,
E-
"How could that?" It's like, "Get over it."
No, oh
So,
yeah, and they say I can do that. Of
I
course you
can
can.
do
Of
yeah.
course you can, but you wasn't the first one to come up with the idea.
You didn't do it. It's like my friend said, this guy went backstage at a Sun Ra concert and he went up to Sun Ra and says,
Mm,
"My kid could do that." And
yeah,
Sun Ra said, "But can he transcribe it?" So
yeah.
walk us through, Hans, just briefly, the tipping point where you were going to high school, or I mean, you basically said you started playing music at age, what, 3 or, you know,
Five,
5,
six.
you started playing music at age 5, but where's the tipping point where you go, "I wanna study this and that's my calling," and
Yeah,
then where's your tipping point to being an educator? Those 2 things,
yeah.
where'd they kick over? Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So when I was finished with the compulsory school, I got the chance to go to a musical gymnasium, upper secondary school, almost like a high school. So
yeah,
and there, going to school and meeting people who were interested only in music, was such an big thing for me. That
yeah,
was a real tipping point, because there I met other musicians. We formed a band. We started playing together. We started to composing music. So that was a really real tipping point for me. I went also to conservatory in Copenhagen, Royal Danish Conservatory, playing classical guitar for 2 years, and so that was the point. And then I subbed as a music teacher in school, and I got I got a little bit fed up with that. So I was actually trying to be more of a regular teacher. So
uh,
I applied for that, and I came in and to become a kindergarten teacher. And I noticed during that education that I could do a lot of music, with these kids, and so I started working as a kindergarten teacher, and there were so few males at that time in Sweden, you know. And when you came to a kindergarten, you know, and you could play the guitar, you became instantly a god.
Yeah.
Because the kids were so, oh, you can play guitar, you can sing, wow, you know. So that was such a great thing for me. And then I was a kindergarten teacher for a while, and then I got the opportunity to start teaching music again a couple of years later. So and now the big thing is that like 10 years ago, I got the chance to work at something called Malmö International School, and that I love doing that because it's international. Both the kids come from all over the world, and the parents and my colleagues come from all over the world, and it's such a great thing to I'm an internationalist, you know. It's so,
Nice.
yeah, it's so obvious, you know, and I like it a lot, you know, and a lot of it has to do with the where the families and the kids come from, and also my colleagues. So
Yeah.
that's a game changer for me.
That was good, Hans. What a concise articulation. I appreciate that. And a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite.
Mhm.
Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play when you're writing a piece of Hans music? Not a commission or an assignment, but you're just writing a composition for Hans. What
Mhm.
role does intention play?
Yeah. Usually the intention comes in the lyrics.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I'm writing something in Swedish, I usually have an intention with the lyrics. I want to write about this subject if I can come up with something. So there is an intention. When it comes to uh, instrumental music, uh, sometimes there can be an intention, something that I've heard and something that has inspired me, and you try to sort of, yeah, get inspired by it, but don't do it exactly the same way, because then you're, you know, but otherwise, you know, a lot of music comes to me when I'm just intentionless. I don't have an intention. I just sit and fool around and find some chords or a melody or whatever, you know. So there is no real intention, but
yeah,
to start with. But with the lyrics, there is usually an intention.
yeah. Good. We're going to get into this now. And Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you think of your listener when you're writing a song?
Not at all. To,
Wow.
totally. I don't. You know, the thing is that, you know, I have never supported myself as a musician or a composer, and I will never do that. And now I'm 66, you know, and I don't care anymore, you know. So I've never had the idea of supporting myself as a professional musician, based on the fact that I want to play my music,
Yeah.
and I don't want to sit around and play other people's music. Of course, I can work together with other people, but
Yeah.
I have, you know, I want to do my things, not because they are better than anything else, but
Yeah.
because they are mine.
Yeah.
So I don't care about
Yeah. That's
the
good.
who's listening. I don't think about anyone, you know, or whatever, you know. I do it for myself.
Yeah.
Like Frank
And
said, you know, you know,
yeah,
if someone else likes it, it's a bonus.
it's a bonus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness or human sensorium. Like
Hmm.
knife and fork extend our teeth. Shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Maybe
Hmm.
even non tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness. What
Mhm.
does the guitar extend for you? What humanness is extended by the guitar?
Um, well, like any other instrument, it's communication.
Yeah,
You can communicate with an instrument if you are yeah, if you want, you can use an instrument as some kind of communication, and also, yeah, mm, tell how you feel. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it was so obvious when I saw Frank live. If he was in a good mood or in a bad mood. You could hear it in his guitar playing,
nice.
and yeah, and sometimes it was. He came up and played something, it didn't work. He stepped on another pedal, another sound. He tried again. No, it didn't work. Maybe 3 times he started a solo, and you could feel it. No, it's not good. It wasn't something, and you could. So I like artists where you can get the feeling that there's some kind of event. They're not playing the same thing every time. You are in this concert, something special is actually happening. It could be good, could be bad, but you get the feeling of this is something special.
It's like be here now. He's
Yeah,
present.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
And
that's really amazing. You're a listener, which is a key element of music that people leave out. You're a close listener.
mhm.
And Copeland said the 4 elements or ingredients of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color.
Well,
Before we go into the 4 and how you integrate the 4, how
mhm.
would you explain what is tone color to a normal person, not in academic music terms? What does tone color mean?
well, tone color is like different instruments. I mean, if you can hear the difference between a trumpet and accordion, for
Yeah,
example, and if you can or make it more drastic, like a fuzz guitar and a drum, if you can hear,
yeah,
usually people can. That is some kind of tone color, that
yeah,
that the instrument decides the tone color or the timbre
yeah.
of the overtones. Well, you don't have to go into that, but different instruments have different tone colors.
Yeah. And so those 4 elements, how do you integrate them when you're writing a song? I know it's different every time or whatever, but is there something that you lean towards melody, harmony, rhythm, or tone color, or you have a ritual on what do you Yeah, I know there's lyrics too, but in this regard, those 4, how do you integrate those 4?
Well, I I love a good melody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is always and even the music that I'm listening to or appreciate. If it has melody, I tend to gravitate to melody, not so much the rhythmic element, because I'm not really, there are people who loves a great groove, and they looking for the groove all the time. I don't care so much about the groove. Of course, if the groove is great, but I can't really sit and listen to something for 40 minutes and it's just the groove, that
Yeah.
doesn't make it for me. And so melody is the absolutely most important. Harmony is also important, and it has become more important lately for me, that trying to avoid the cliches of harmony, and I hear that a lot in the recent pop music.
Yeah.
Today's that harmony is so um, yeah, it's not underdevelopment. Underdeveloped in today's
Yeah.
popular music. That's it's I'm really amazed. Sometimes they don't even they have the same. three harmonies or four harmonies all the way through the whole song. They don't even bother to write a bridge or a pre-chorus or whatever. It's so I try to find, but not to the extent of John Tobacco, for example, because his harmony is way more advanced than mine
Yeah.
harmony. Because he's more of a jazz guy, and he
Yeah.
loves those jazz, and I'm not really. So I go for melody, harmony, rhythmic, yes, sort of, and tone color is also important, but
Well,
yeah,
Hans, I appreciate you being articulate. That was really good.
okay.
Then my other friend says the three tenets of music are taste, technique, and theory. You've learned the technique, how to play it. You can
Mhm.
tell me the theory, the structure. How does one acquire taste?
Well, you have to listen to a lot of music in order to develop a taste. I mean, to me, it would be impossible to be dealing with music if you didn't have a taste for it, or you didn't have a favorite kind of not maybe not style, but you say favorite kind of music. You develop some kind of taste by listening to a lot of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have your taste, and then you like we began, that you can use your taste in music to take you out of a low down situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go for music that you really like, and maybe you haven't heard for a while, and you get back to it and you remember, yeah, okay, oh, yeah, this really, oh, I love this thing here, or I love whatever it is. So that's taste. When it comes to composing and well, I think it's basically the same thing. You some things you like, some things, and some things you don't like, and
Yeah.
yeah, and you go for the things that you like, whatever it is that you like. People should play the music and listen to the music that I like.
Yeah.
Don't not do it because someone tells you that this is modern, or this is something that you should listen to, or this is good. You decide your own taste, and I wish that more people were more actually follow the taste,
Yeah.
and instead of listening to what you think people should do, or should listen to. But it's easy for me to say, because but I know, yeah, whatever it is. So
It's a good break, Hans. It was a good breakdown because it reminds me of, I'm a fan of the Shags, and Frank loves the Shags.
yeah,
And
I know.
you say to someone, "What do you think of the Shags?" And I had a guy goes, "I don't get them," and I was like, "Thank God," because everybody felt they had a. It was trendy to go, "Oh, I like the Shags." You don't have to like them, and if that's fine because they're fucking horrible,
Yeah.
So that was a good example of that, but this thing about taste, one more, is McLuhan has this line. There's two parts to it, basically. And I'm just wondering your feedback on it.
Mhm.
Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment?
Yeah, I think that he's correct. And sometimes I'm thinking about, if I think you probably heard, these old Chinese music from China.
Yeah.
They have a completely different set of values, or a set of sounds, that it's very, very hard for us from West to appreciate those
Yeah.
sounds. Metallic, and the way they sing, and
Yeah.
it's completely. And I sometimes I listen to this and wonder, how did they end up with this sounds?
That is a good, no one gets this comment. And you, Hans, you get it because McLuhan's saying something like, oh no, this is what usually people say is, I listen to Brazilian music and I don't know what the words are saying, but it's communicating something to me.
Yeah.
But he's saying something a little different here. And that, I think what you said is amazing. What's more fundamental, language or music?
Well, yeah. You mean what came first? Language.
Well, again, you put the word fundamental into the context you
Yeah.
want. It's an interesting word because it means, it kind of means that. Yeah, it's more basic or first. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, I go for music there
Yeah.
because going back to children again, that even if you assume that children don't have a language that they can communicate with, at 1 year old, but they can,
Yep.
they respond to music.
Yep.
Or respond to sounds or instruments, they absolutely, that is my experience, so I would go for music.
Yeah. And tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Well, instrumental that makes me laugh. Let me see. Some of Frank's instrumental music makes me laugh. For example, Alien Orifice, which and Maggio too, makes me laugh. But actually, my favorite song by Frank is Gregory Peccary.
Oh my God, we have so much in common.
Yeah, that is a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, it has everything that Frank stood for, and except the guitar solo.
So, and it's that's what I always say. And then you just listen to Redunzel on the same album.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Hans, when I was working for Frank and Gail really did have this tradition, when it was your birthday, they'd buy a cake and champagne. And it's like in the middle of the day, I'm drinking champagne. I was like, God, I can't work. And in the middle of Gregory Peccary, they go, and they'll have birthday parties into the office. And I go, I'm living this song. It was an amazing, it's just, to quote Herbie Hancock in the middle of that song, and Cage. I actually asked Frank once, I said, did you get that part with all the radios tuned to a different station? And he goes, no. He said, not. I know it was, but it was just like how he says, no, I just thought about myself. But I want to get into Frank a little more, but a couple others says, my friend says about Thelonious Monk, he said, Monk heard all the notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them.
Yeah.
Monk is so wise because he said silence is the loudest sound in the universe.
Yeah.
How do you integrate what Miles talks about too, the space between notes?
Yeah. Well, I agree with that, and that is also a lot of what Cage says, with silence, and also that in Cage case there is no silence.
Yeah,
it's the 4.33 composition indicates that, I mean, there are different ways of using this language music. Some people talk a lot, and they have a talk really fast, and they have a lot to say, or they use a lot of words. Other people are more slow speaking, they tend to, yeah, and they say don't use that many words, but they get the point across by just saying the correct words at the correct time, and everybody say, okay, yeah, I get your point. So it's the same with an instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. That's the way I feel.
But Monk also says there are no wrong notes. How do you
No,
respond? How
I
do
I
you,
totally agree with that.
yeah,
I heard that, I think it was Herbie Hancock when he played with Miles,
yeah,
and he told a story that he played a wrong note somewhere, and Miles picked that up.
yeah.
So he played that note as well, a little bit after, in order to let everybody know that it wasn't a wrong note, it was the correct note, and now I'm playing it, and if I'm playing it, Herbie played the right note as well, So I agree with that. It's there are no wrong notes that you do intentionally, or even if you don't do it intentionally, you slip something, but you can make something out of that. So
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's funny because I know you're a performer. You played in front of audiences. And Ruth Draper says the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is
Mhm.
they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. Hey, that sounds good, but how do you do that?
Yeah. That is really hard. The thing is that you can only be yourself and do
Yeah,
what you do, and if you are true to yourself and you do what you do as good as you can, whatever the standard that you have, then you know uh, then you can't. Don't try to think, what people would like to hear in this situation, or
yeah,
what is expected of you. I mean, like I said, I like performance where you get some kind of feeling that how they feel and
yeah.
how they feel at the moment, I'm not so fond of these shows where it also depends on what kind of music it is, But going back to Mats and Morgan, for example, they have a fantastic rapport between them.
Oh, it's
It's
amazing.
so alive.
Yeah,
That's the word. And they know each other so well. That they
yeah,
can really go out and stretch things with you don't know whether they are jamming or if it's
yeah.
actually a song that they are doing, and if you have that, that is quite unique
It's
thing.
that ESP that Frank had with Vinny.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, it's ESP. I mean, there's other ways to explain it. I call it ESP. But
Yeah,
you nailed what Leonard Cohen said. The only way you can sell a concert is to put yourself at risk. And if you
yeah,
don't do that, people know.
yeah.
What role does risk play in your creative process?
Well, the the risk is, I don't care about the risk. I follow my own uh, thing, my own idea. I don't risk, and since I'm not supporting myself as a
Yeah,
musician or a composer, I don't risk anything from an economical view, and I don't really have like an audience,
yeah,
that I mean, there have been occasions where people come up to me and say, "Oh, you must be Hans," Yeah, yeah, that's me. Okay, okay, yeah, let's talk about Frank or whatever, But I don't really, I I don't. Well, uh, risk is not something that I think about.
yeah.
I,
Well, it
I, I,
sounds like you're sort of like Charles Ives. He
mm,
had his gig being an insurance man, then
yeah,
he could change the world of music by writing what he's heard and
exactly.
not catering to the needs of a consumer culture.
No, no, I've never. never really had that option, or thing, but because since I'm not really good at playing other people's music, especially if I'm not if it's music that I don't really like.
Yeah,
I'm not really good at doing that. And there are other people who are do that, play covers and whatever,
yeah,
and do that splendidly. But I'm that's not for me.
yeah. Well, Ben Ratliff just released a book on Bill Frisell, and he's
Yeah.
a jazz writer, and he says, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such
Mm,
that it can be heard at best in a single note. So
mm.
me, you could hear a note or two by Miles and go, "Oh yeah, that's Miles."
Yeah.
And Ben described it as fragile and pointed.
Mm,
Coltrane, slightly undercooked and urgent. If a
mm.
music writer or someone you really respected was going to summarize Hans's sound in a couple words, what two words would you feel? Hey, they got it. They kind of touched on what I'm about.
Two words. Okay. Um, uh, I would like them to um, if they think that there is some kind of uniqueness, whatever that is, to my way of doing music and the way I sound. If someone would call me that, that say, okay, you have something of your
That's
own, yeah, uh, that would be great. Even if they say, you are, yeah, you have your own thing, and whether it's commercial or not doesn't enter into it. But if they
yeah.
can hear, then I would be totally happy.
That's beautiful, Hans, because it reminds me of, I'm watching a lot of clips from Zapanelli this
Yeah,
year, and I've never gone, and I should have gone all these years at least once. But
yeah,
it's like, how do you, and this is the history of all art, the anxiety of influence, as Harold Bloom puts it, how do you absorb your influence and then abandon it?
mm,
So, Frank, in a lot of ways, absorbed Edgar Varese and
mm,
Spike Jones.
mm,
And dude, did he really abandon it? He's just a Spike Jones, Edgar Varese wannabe. But he added a little fucking Johnny Guitar Watson and Stravinsky and
yeah,
the throat singers and whatever else. But it is this thing called alchemy, where you take
yeah,
two known things, you blend them together, and
yeah,
then you come up with a third unknown thing. And then the unique thing for Frank is then he satirized his own new invention.
yeah.
So, let's get into Frank a little. When did you start with Frank? You're going along hearing music. Which album did you start with that changed you and went, oh,
Yeah, I remember it clearly. The first album that I bought by Frank was Shanga's Revenge in 1970,
yeah,
and the story is that they had a radio program here in Sweden at that time where they played the 20 most sold records every week,
yeah,
and it could be a single or it could be an LP. If it was an LP, they played a different tracks every week if the album was still in the
yeah,
charts. So and since I was playing guitar, I heard this, I don't remember if it was Shanga's Revenge, but I heard a lot of guitar playing, and I thought this is really interesting because so long, guitar solos of that length, I had never heard that before. And but on the other hand, at this point, it was not only Frank, that Frank was one of many artists and bands that came up, late 60s, early 70s, that
Yeah.
were quite unique.
Yeah.
So he was just part of that. There were other things who I really liked a lot, but that was the first experience of his music. And also I had this poster with him sitting on the toilet that we used to have. I don't know how my parents could okay that, but we had that in the bathroom, so and from there on, I actually won Waka Waka Hot Rats. I won that LP in some kind of we had I did a lot of sports at that time also, when the football club, the soccer club, that we won a tournament, and we could pick different presents or whatever. So I got that record as well. And then I met a friend who was a little bit older than me, and he had all those Freak Out and Absolutely Free and the old albums that I didn't knew existed. So but Chungus Revenge was the first album.
Yeah. And so this is funny because this is the era when Frank was in the LA Free Press.
Yeah.
And he said, he mentions Pauline Oliveros working sound.
Yeah.
Above the audible and below, creating a mass.
Yeah, I know.
And,
I've read that he thought it was a brilliant idea that you take two sounds and you make a third out of those sounds,
Yeah.
And I haven't heard. I think I had a vinyl record with Pauline Oliveira's one piece by her, but I don't remember the title of the piece that Frank was referring to, but I know that he spoke about that.
Yeah. And it's funny because I met her once and talked to her about it, and she sort of discounted Frank, and I wish I could have spent more time with her sussing it out. But it is amazing. And I'm curious your thoughts on this one too, because Frank has this statement in his book. Some scientists claim that hydrogen, because it is so plentiful, is the basic building block of the universe.
Yeah,
I dispute that. There is more stupidity than hydrogen, and that's the basic block of the universe.
Yeah.
What do you think Frank is saying there? What do you get out of that statement?
Well, I think that Frank had, in order to understand him, I think, well, the way I understand him, what he's saying and what he did, in lyrics and what everything, all the interviews. There are four parts of him. It's the humor. That's the first part. The second part is the cynical cynicism, being cynical. The third part is the sarcasm, and the fourth part is the seriousness.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very hard to listen to Frank's lyrics without some sense of humor. If you take if you take what he's doing and also what he's saying, that you have to think about the humor element in it together with that. But he's also serious sometimes,
Yeah.
And I think this thing with the hydrogen and the stupidity, of course, stupidity is plentiful, well, it's a good quote.
Yeah, but I think Frank's saying something that's almost Zen, and it's McLuhan-esque, and it's like, how do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? I mean, stupidity is, if you don't know something, then you ask a question. And people, and we're always trying to unlearn. We know too much, and how do you get away from thinking you know so much? I mean, Frank was willing to admit mistakes. And that's, I have several examples of when he said, it's epitomized in his statement, I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure.
Yeah.
And it flips back to your comment where he said, I'm very serious about being not serious. And so Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Well, that's a hard one. Of course, I have weaknesses like everybody else, but well, should it be related to music or in general?
Whatever context you want to put it in is fine.
I have a weakness for some animals, and I also have a weakness for children. And that I'm probably too kind, and I'm to these both to I'm probably too kind. I mean, if you're going to raise a child, and if you're going to raise a dog or a cat, you have to be really firm, especially with the dog, that you don't, I can't be that, I don't know if that's a weakness that's I turned into but I work really, really well with children. I think I have a very good rapport with children, especially maybe not so much teenagers, but younger children at least. And that is a good thing if you're going to be an educator or going to be a teacher, that you actually have a good rapport. You I try to be really honest with them, tell them the way it is, and don't. We also, so
that's good. Hans, that's beautiful what you said, because it reminds me of, I was just quoting W.C. Fields to my friend today, and he goes, "Get away from me, kid! You bother me." And it's like it is that whole thing is Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, said, "You are what you hate." And it's this, you create what you resist. And like Frank said, almost word for word what James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. So Frank is singing Jesus, Mary, and Joseph through all his songs. It's like, you don't believe in God, but he's sure a big part of your songs because he's part of you. And so what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Conviction, I would say.
Yeah. And you've accomplished a lot in your life. How do you rate these three elements: luck, skill, and ambition? What played the biggest role, second and third?
Luck, skill, and ambition. I would say ambition
is number one.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to this, Frank had this view of time, that time is not linear. It's time is there is something called human time, which is like the past and now and the future. But I think that the universe doesn't really work that way. If everything is happening all the time, whatever you do, it's more I don't know if you can call it faith or because if everything is happening all the time,
Yeah.
whatever you do doesn't matter, because any choice that you do is the choice that is going to happen. It's
Yeah.
it's sort of it's sort of it's sort of course you can make mistakes, but that mistake was sort of part of the plan.
Yep.
That mistake was supposed to happen,
Yeah.
and you couldn't really. He says this thing. It's time is always a question of when. When is the important part? When
That's
is the glass over here? When is the glass over there? And if that is true, which I think it is,
yeah.
there is no reason to regret anything, or because the choices you made or the things that happened to you, they were supposed to be happening to you. You
Yeah.
couldn't, yeah. So
No,
you
you
know,
nailed it, Hans. That's
luck is okay. You can sometimes feel that you've been lucky doing this,
yeah.
but I have a quite sunny attitude,
Yeah.
and so, but no, yeah, and
Well, that's
ambition.
yeah, and it's amazing because both James Joyce and Frank basically said all times are happening now, and you suss that out so well, and it goes deep into the lyrics of Gregory Peccary. But
Yeah,
you'll love
exactly.
this.
He
But
invents the
you'll love
calendar.
this. Yeah,
Yeah,
and you'll love this. When I asked Thomas Nordegg this question many years ago, I don't ask it very often anymore. But what's your most important W question? Why, who, what, why, where, or when? And which one do you rate the most? And he goes, when.
yeah,
Thomas Nordegg goes, when. And it was amazing because everybody says why or
yeah,
who. But
yeah,
Thomas was like when, and it was so much like Frank. And
yeah.
so T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Swedish.
Yeah, but consciousness in. It's more metaphorical. Like
Yeah. Please say the question again. What
like
language?
what form is your inner consciousness in?
What form? Um in thoughts, in feelings.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine. And we've touched on this, and I'm very curious. Two of my film heroes, their mantra is ignore yourself. There is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, who's listed in Freak Out,
Mhm.
said, I'm just a vehicle, and this stuff just comes through me.
Mhm.
Is art making, music making more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
I think it's self-expression, but music shows who you are and how you feel and what's on your mind, and can make a musician or a composer a personality, because you need some kind of personality in order to be different from everybody else. I mean, even if you don't like some music that you listen to, or a performer, if that person has some kind of personality, then it's much easier to relate to it, whether you like it or whether you don't like it.
Yes. But Hans, can art making, music making be egoless?
Well, I think John Cage tried that to put
Yeah,
as little ego into it as possible,
yeah,
and well, but even by doing that, even by saying, like some of this variation, any action by any number of people, that's a composition,
yeah,
and and but even by doing that, he puts his ego into it
Very good. Yeah.
somehow. He puts his personality in the piece by telling how the piece should be done.
Right.
And yeah,
It's like that Ben Ratliff quote, the full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality. But I think I read it in the interview on your website, this quote, style is fraud. Is
yeah.
that who said that and what does that mean to you? Because is style what you're referring to as personality or is that different?
No, I'm the quote comes from a Swedish artist called Carl Fredrik Reuterswärd, and he's mostly known for this knotted gun. If you've seen that, he did that when a pistol with where the pipe
Yes.
is, yeah, and it's outside. The big one is outside the UN nations in New York, and he did that as a response to when John Lennon got shot.
Wow, I didn't know that. So what
Wow.
does that quote mean to you? What
That yeah,
is that different than personality? What does style is fraud mean to you?
yeah,
And why
that
did you use that?
yeah.
Yeah.
The way I interpret it is that you can, for example, in music, it's if you want to be a commercial artist or band or whatever, you should have a style, because
Yeah.
if someone hears a song by you and he likes the song, they should be able to listen to other songs and they should resemble each other at least. I mean, you if you buy a record, whoever does that nowadays, but if you listen to something, you should recognize, okay, this is a band, this is an artist, this this artist have a style, and you can call it something country, pop, rock, or reggae,
Yeah.
or whatever. But so style is a fraud, that because sometimes you change. If you're an artist, you can go from one style to another style. This guy Carl Fredrik Reuterswärd, he worked, he did paintings, he did sculptures, he did a lot of things. He worked with lasers, he was designing things. He had different styles, or he worked in different styles. So the way I see it, that if you say, sometimes people ask me, what kind of music do you do? And I say,
Yeah.
okay, it's varied music, it's diversity, or you could say that it's rock music in a extremely wide sense, meaning that any kind of style, any kind of chord, any kind of melody, any kind of
Yeah.
sound is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I mean with that. I also quote Frank's, this anything, anytime, at no
Love
time, for
that.
no reason at all. So total openness and total
Yeah.
open for the possibilities, and that's why, that if you commit yourself to a style, which you should do if you want to make some money, you should keep and you should do that stuff. But that's not for me. I don't care about styles. I can do, I go by my ideas. If I have an idea, musical idea, I don't care what kind of style it is. And that is why, if I would say that, I'm a musician and I'm working in this style only, it wouldn't be possible for me. That's what I mean by style is fraud,
Yeah.
that you can work in different. And I think that he means that too, but I'm not sure. He's not
Yeah.
alive, so I can't really ask him. But for me, is that style is not who defines you,
Yeah.
or you define your own style, and that could be different styles.
Yeah. That's really well put, and I'm glad you taught me that quote and the history behind it. What an amazing art piece he did.
Yeah,
That's what we should do with guns. It's like, to me, It's like AI in
Yeah,
virtual reality and coding. You should just make guns so they can't kill people.
exactly.
And when it's aimed at a person, it won't work. It's like
No,
that's a no-brainer.
no,
Come
yeah,
we got to stop gun violence, but or
yeah,
good luck. But I asked for 90 minutes and it's almost up. Can you go a little longer?
yeah. Sure, sure,
Okay.
sure.
So, what do you think the motive of the cave artist was? We have cave art, but we don't have cave music and cave dance, but there
Mhm.
was something happening. What was their motive, your guess or your hunch?
Well, I think that the people who were in the caves, apparently they have, researchers have found that certain places in the caves resonated better than other. So when
Yeah.
they were singing or shouting or whatever, they made sounds with their voices. They found spots which was sort of, yeah, it sounded better to them. If it was the echo or whether
Yeah.
the reverb or whatever. Apparently, they found spots in these caves where, and that's also where some of these paintings actually is. In spots where the sound uh, sounded best.
Yeah. Is perception reality?
Yes, I would say that.
Yeah. Tell me one major element of your creativeness, Hans, that stayed the same in one major element that's changed in the years you've been being creative.
My love for melodies has always been the same,
Yeah.
and my mm, um, that something that have changed is I have developed from the more I learn, the more I do it, and the more I'm thinking about music. I should try to do my own thing and not try to, you know, try to be myself and take away things that I don't like. And because I do too much, I think I do almost, much too much music. I would rather do less music, but with a better quality.
Yeah, that's I admire you being able to say that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm a maximalist. I like rah, 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 and it's like, dude, it's all about it's like Thelonious Monk.
Yeah.
George Clinton said it best. He said, funk is the absence of. It's
Mhm.
like, it's don't overdo it. And that's Frank often is bombastic, but he
Yeah.
knows how to stop for a second. It's
Yeah.
not just the machine gun of notes.
No.
And so, you talked about dreams earlier, and McLuhan probed James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, saying that
Yeah.
artists dream awake. Like everybody has this ability to create these scenarios in the middle of the night, and they're amazing and dream. But artists also dream while they're awake. Have dreams played a role in your creative process of writing music?
Yeah. Yeah. I have dreams that what I want to do when it comes to music, but that is usually down to finance or my bank account. So I have dreams what want to do, but if you mean that dreams that I had at night have influenced what I'm doing in music when I'm awake, no, I can't say that, but
Yeah.
I have musical dreams.
Yeah. And so Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Not before breakfast, but
Okay, after breakfast, did you
after
believe?
breakfast, yeah. Yes. Well, I have a lot of ideas, but I wouldn't say I haven't come to any conclusion what is actually possible and not possible. I'm sort of taking away. Um, I'm no, I haven't experienced anything that I say, oh, this is not possible. I think many things are possible if I, I'm sort of positive that way.
Yeah,
I believe in the possibility.
yeah. Yeah, Sunra said it great. He said, "The impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change."
No.
But but I'm impressed, Hans, because you do have a positive attitude, I think. And I'm wondering because I reflects the same way I am. I was like, what's the I mean, Frank was a little more pessimistic and I think the power of positive thinking might work and it gets you into that Pollyanna kind of world too. But
Mhm.
where do you think you got that positiveness from? Is it more from the way your parents raised you or on your own?
I think it's a mixture, and
Yeah,
and 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 I think it's a mixture, but I don't know where exactly where it comes. I think it's my positive thing could be that since I know what I want to do, since I know I want to do music, and I'm happy doing it, I love doing it, and
yeah,
I also love teaching. Teaching is becoming more and more fun for me. Marking tests is a drag, and and teaching I love since I basically
yeah,
do what I love to do, then I have a positive attitude. Of course, if you look at the world
yeah,
around us, it's hard to be positive. Of course, climate change and war in Ukraine and whatever, there are lots of things which shows humans stupidity, in a lot of ways. So I kind of agree with Frank that, but as a person, I'm more of a positive than a negative um, side, and
yeah,
I think it comes from that I know what I want to do, and I can do it, and
yeah.
I'm happy doing it, and then you are positive.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I admire that, Hans. And I asked Shelly Manne, the great jazz drummer who played on Lumpy Gravy. I
Yeah,
says, I said, what was it like playing with Frank Zappa? And he said, that guy knew what he wanted and he got what he wanted. And
exactly.
I was like, coming from Shelly, that was an amazing statement.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Hans, fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when,
Uh, Anger can be a productive emotion. Eh, Yeah, it can if you're really angry or if you're really upset, it can be productive in the sense that, for example, you can like in lyrics. I go back to lyrics again. If you really are upset about something, you can write about that. Even if you're a poet or if you write a book or whatever, anger and upsetting things can function as a creative spark for something.
yeah,
I think that that in my case, it's happening when you know, political things happening, or whatever, you know, that you really feel that you need to write about, you know. So it can work.
You touched on this a little, Hans, too, and I appreciated it. I asked my friend who writes comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? And he said, that's the job of satire. But if
Exactly.
me, but if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, some people think dying is destructive. You know, Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. And
Mhm.
Frank nailed it. He said, watch the Nazis run your town. Now
Yeah.
go home and check yourself. You
Mm.
think we're singing about somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, what is the function of satire? And especially, you know, you agreeing, can satire be destructive? Because, you know, I heard someone in one of these Zappa documentary said Frank attacked 5 different people on this album. And I go, well, he didn't attack them. He's
Oh,
a satirist. That's his job as a satirist. So
exactly.
what is the function of satire?
Yeah, it's making one of the function is to make it obvious that ridicule something, you know, that things that you think is wrong or is stupid or is totally, if you satirize it, it makes it so obvious that this idea or this way of behaving is so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one of the ideas when you satirize something, that by humor you can show people that this idea or this way of behaving or thinking or doing or whatever it is totally ridiculous. And the best way is using satire or humor to expose that.
Well, what's the function of laughter?
Oh, the function of laugh. Humor is it's also dependent on whether you laugh at something, or if you like to say, if you laugh with someone or if you laugh at someone, you know. But as long as you can, if you can laugh at yourself, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a good start, you know. If you can, especially if you're joking, if you can take a joke, then you can give a joke. If you just keep joking about everybody else, and when someone says something about you, you take it personal and you don't laugh, then that's not good. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. Start with, if you can laugh at what you do and who you are, then you can laugh at other things as well. And I think Frank could laugh at himself.
Yeah. I saw him sing, of all places, in Las Vegas once. And
Hmm.
he was singing Broken Hearts Are for Assholes. And there's
Yeah,
a line, you're an asshole, you're an asshole. And
yeah.
at one point he
He said,
pointed at himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But you know, McLuhan loved to quote Steve Allen, who had Frank on his TV show playing a
Yeah,
bicycle.
yeah,
Steve
I know.
Allen, Steve Allen said, behind every joke, there's a grievance. Now,
Yeah.
I would even, you know, put the word every aside. Behind jokes, there's a grievance. Any thought on that statement?
Um, I don't know. I don't. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
That's all right. What's the most, well, the other thing about laughter I wanted to say is Gurdjieff said laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. So, I mean, that's the most important thing Frank taught me, was embracing contradiction. Like
Yeah,
nothing is what I want, or you know, you got to love the cops as they beat the shit out of you. You
yeah,
know, those are some amazing embracements of contradiction.
yeah, yeah.
What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Well, that's a hard one, you know. Um, the political correct answer is probably that's no difference between men and women. I'm, you know, and I don't know. I think it's down to the individual, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, it has to be, you know, but because um, the biology, you know, there's difference, but apart from that, I hope there's no other difference, or
Hans,
we should at least behave that way, you know,
yeah.
that it's not it's nothing. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Women can probably do everything that men can, and the other way around.
Yeah. Hans, you know, that's the answer I love to hear. And it's rare because most people say, well, women are more emotional and
Mm,
men are more linear and rational. But I love when people actually say there is no difference. So thank you for that. How do
you're
you
welcome.
find how do you find peace of mind?
Music again.
Yeah.
Peace of mind. Yeah, I use music. You know, that's the same answer. That, you know, I peace of mind. If I'm upset, if I'm stressed,
Yep.
whatever, listen to music, and that works for me.
It's a healing force.
Yeah,
Here's here's 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words.
yeah.
Number 1, who started it all?
Uh, who started it all? Yeah, Frank. No, let me say. My grandmother started it all
Oh, that is a good answer.
by having a piano in her house.
My grandma. I love that answer. Okay, 2, are we going to make it?
Yes.
Where do we put it?
Um, we put it in our head or in our mind or in our heart.
Yeah,
Any of those.
I love it. And who's cleaning it up?
We all together.
You've already touched on this one, though. 5th question is it serious?
Some things are serious, others are not serious.
Yeah,
So depending on what we are talking about, but you have you have to have some kind of
yeah,
seriousness somewhere,
yeah.
but don't let it don't let it rule you,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Does humor belong in rap music? I love your title. I say, does humor belong in podcast interviews? This has been a joy and a pleasure, dude. Hans,
Yeah,
really fun. A couple more and we're out of here. If
yeah.
you were if you were walking down the street and you met yourself as a 12-year-old today, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I would say that at 12, I see the road you're on. Keep doing what you do and stay true to yourself. Don't listen to others only if you need advice and people that you respect, and do your own thing.
Yeah.
Don't, yeah. And that's what I would say to someone,
Beautiful.
myself included.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Over.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
My life in music.
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
What smell? Honey.
If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Mm, maybe at the school I'm working at. That would be nice to have when I finish teaching. There would be having a nice display in stone. Not my face, I think, but maybe my guitar.
How cool. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good that I never had and that I never want. I don't have perfect pitch,
Yeah.
and I don't think I want it either because it's more of a hassle than a.
That is a great answer. People always go, "Yeah, I can't answer that." That is a great answer. It's
Yeah.
good. You never had it and you never want it. You are
No.
smart.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
Hans, if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
If I were in a bag of vomit,
A vat, like a big vat of vomit, and
okay,
someone throws a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
duck.
What is a couple more and we're out of here.
Yeah.
What is the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Um, well, I see a lot of nationalistic shit that's going around in Sweden at the moment, and that inspires me to do everything I can to stop it, or
Yeah.
or use satire or humor to show how shitty these thoughts are.
Yeah. Way to go. What a motivator.
Mm.
What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Uh, how does the universe actually work? Which I think we will never fully understand. We will
Yeah.
only see it as humans, but how universe really, and of course, what happened when you die?
Yeah.
That's unresolved. But I don't have, yeah, yeah, okay. I have some ideas about that, but we'll see what happens.
That's good. Yeah. Well, my friend says I only believe in reincarnation in one of my past lives. But
Yeah.
Captain Beefheart and Frank were talking when they were both, you know, soon to check out, and they both had watched a PBS documentary on the Big Bang.
Mhm.
And Frank asked Don, "What do you think was before the Big Bang?"
Mhm.
And Don said, "The Big."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No,
So how is your deep delve into Zappa? I've listened to your some of your versions of Zappa songs, and they're really exciting. And I appreciate your love of Frank and how much you've explored him. How has he shaped your behavior?
he for me he's an example of a person who could mainly he could do whatever he wanted to do
Yeah,
musically if he had the money to do it.
yeah,
And also I have he what he really wanted to do was to sit and write
yeah,
orchestral music. And he could do that to a certain degree, but that what I believe that what he was doing. So he was actually doing, the band, the pop band or rock band or whatever, in order to have the time and the money to do his serious music
yeah,
or
yeah,
classical music. That was it. So he was actually working on something that maybe he liked it and tried to do it, have as much fun as possible. But he would rather, if someone would pay him to sit at home and write his notes, and compose music, he would rather do that,
Yeah.
instead of being on the road for 6 months, a year, or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was in the same situation that someone else who has had to have some kind of job or a day job in order to do the music. So
Yeah.
he was in the same situation in a way, but he could navigate this thing where he could basically do whatever he wanted to do musically. So he's an example of someone when this was a possibility for people to do that, and which is I don't think it's possible today, to write that kind of music or doing that kind of all these styles and things like that. It's not possible to earn a living doing it, but he could do it. And he's also like, he knew what he wanted and he did it, and whatever the critics said or whatever and he, by that, he gained some kind of following, and he could, he's a good example of a guy who had, and he also had some really odd or different ideas, about things, and I really miss him. Not so much the music, but I really miss his attitude. I mean, I miss his interviews. I loved reading about or hearing about how his thoughts about every subject. So I really miss that, and maybe if he had, I don't know whether he would have possibility to become the president of the United States if he would run, but it's possible that the world might have been a different place if he was still around.
Yeah, it's really beautiful how you summarize that, Hans, because I like that Frank said, I don't have any brown lipstick in my makeup kit.
Exactly.
So Thornton Wilder said, art is confession, art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Laid your cards on the table for over almost 2 hours now. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. Hans, what's it really all about for you?
For me, it's always and have always been music. And music is the important thing, whatever I do. When it comes to, I don't care so much about, the cover of it, the art and what it sounds, that is the prime thing that I'd go for. I will, that is totally my thing, music comes first.
Beautiful.
And you come second, as a person, and the music is the main thing for me, and I will hopefully never compromise on that. If I feel that this is not about the music, this is about something else, then I'm not interested. The music comes first.
Beautifully well put. What gives you the most optimism?
Well, some of the young people, when it comes to climate and changes in the world, some of the young people, I hope they can work this out, so we won't head for a disaster. And but I'm not really sure, because but I hope that some of the next generation or the next 2 generations or whatever, especially when you got like child, that you see, you want them to sort of grow up in a world that is not
Yeah.
totally wrecked, and they can actually live there, and they can take care of each other. Solidarity with everyone, and not just only your family, and then the people near you. But we don't, as humans, we don't seem to have that. Maybe we need a human 2.0, a new version of us, if we can. If we're gonna, if we're gonna, feel that way, or we, yeah, and it goes back to where I'm teaching, that people from all over, we are basically the same, when it comes to who we are. Then there are differences in language and the, traditions and things like that. But I hope that this is something that we can sort of resolve, and something that we don't, we shouldn't be like in something that is hinder ourselves from I mean, the earth is like a it's a closed system, the earth, and or the so we really have to take care of it, and hopefully we can make it work for everyone. But well,
it's really well put, Hans, because the encouraging thing is, my last question, what gives you the most optimism? Most people say young people, youth, and that's hopeful. And I loved your word solidarity. This commonality, connection, community is all important. The first question I got from Wilhelm Reich is, what's the best thing for a human being? And he said, another human being. And the last question, Groucho Marx was asked, what gives you the most optimism? And he said, other people. So this whole idea of solidarity is beautiful, especially when it comes to music and sharing music, how we've learned to be friends and have this time together through our interest in Zappa. And it's his community has always been a close-knit family, and I appreciated John introducing me, and especially our connection with Mats and Morgan too. So Hans, thank you so much for this time. I really am become enlightened from you sharing your thoughts with me, and I encourage people to check out your music. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. And maybe we can even jam someday.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Jerry. And it's been a pleasure. And your questions make me think of things that I haven't really thought about, and things that I don't know exactly how I'm going to put them into words. And I also feel a little bit, since English isn't my first language, sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to find the correct words and the correct values of words. But that's just a thing that I don't know how many people you interview who don't have English as the first language, but hopefully I've made myself understandable.
I think you did a great job. It was really beautiful. You're great. And we could just, it was just like a jazz jam session, and we just had fun. And so I really appreciate it, Hans. And I got to ask you, do you know Peter Annellsson, the photographer from Sweden who took pictures of Frank?
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you know him too, because he's a great guy too.
Can I ask you one thing, Jerry?
Sure.
When did you stop working for Frank? What year?
It was basically 9.5 years between what did he die in 93?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like 83 to 93, about 9.5 years.
Because,
but it was just before he died.
Yeah.
I would say a couple months, or
because
Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
because I called Barking Pumpkin Records sometime in 92 or 91.
Yeah,
I called and someone asked, someone answered the phone because I got the telephone number from the directory. And so I called Barking Pumpkins Records, Barking Pumpkin Records. Someone answered the phone. It could have been you. And
yeah,
I said, okay, could I have your fax number?
yeah,
And the person said, why do you want that? I said, okay, I'm seeking permission to release one of Frank's songs in Swedish.
yeah,
And in order to do that, I have to send him the Swedish lyrics and a raw translation back to English so he can see
yeah,
how the Swedish lyrics are. So, okay. The person said, I give you the fax number. And I got the fax number. And then the person said, if it was you, what song is it? And I said, oh, it's a song called Penis Dimension from 200 Motels. And the
yeah.
person laughed and said, okay, yeah, great. And then I
And
said,
it was a male voice or a female?
it was a male voice.
Well, no, it was probably me. Yeah,
Probably you, because
yeah,
then I sent the lyrics and I sent it in Swedish and in English, and I wrote "to be sung by a girl"
yeah,
because I thought that Frank would appreciate it, that I changed it from "I'm" to "you."
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
penis,
yeah,
you're worrying you, and a girl singing it. And he actually mentioned that in an interview. He didn't say my name, but he was talking about Swedes. We are, strange in what kind of songs we want to cover. And there was a jazz singer in the 70s who made uh, uh, a song putting lyrics to Toads of the Short Forests. And she put Swedish lyrics to that, and he knew that. But anyway, I was wondering if it was you, because then I got a fax. The response was signed by the fax response that this was okay, was signed by a guy called Mark Holdom.
yeah. Mark was after me, so it could
Yeah.
have been Mark. It could have been Mark he was maybe crossing over and taking care of some of that business stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it maybe was Mark. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's great that you did it and you pursued it and it worked.
Yeah. And the reason that I chose that song is that because that song, I made a Swedish lyrics that followed the melody line exactly,
Yeah,
because I had other songs where I had done Swedish translations, but because I didn't know whether he would accept this, So I
yeah,
thought that if I pick a song that follows his melody line exactly, if he says no to that, say no, you're not allowed to do any Swedish translations, then nothing else would be okay either. So
yeah,
that's why I started with this song. And the other thing was that if I changed the lyrics to a female perspective, maybe he would appreciate that. And he actually said that in the interview there in Guitar Player or whatever it was, that to be sung by a girl, and
yeah.
we're gonna give them go ahead and do it. I said, wow.
Beautiful story, Hans. What a
Yeah,
way to finish up.
yeah,
So again, I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, but I hope this never ends. Thank you so
yeah,
much. That was a great story. It
yeah,
was like the icing on the cake.
yeah.
Pe- penis
Thank you
dimension,
very much. Take care.
penis dimension lives forever.
Absolutely. Take care.